welcome to Tom's Great Movie Show. In this episode we'll be looking at Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek Into Darkness is the sequel to 2009's Star Trek reboot by JJ Abrams. You'll know him from working on Cloverfield, Super 8, as well as the upcoming Star Wars movie. Into Darkness sees the return as Chris Pine as Kirk, Spock is back as Zachary Quinto, or himself, or they're the same person, right? Benedict Cumberbatch is the bad guy, Pegg is Scotty, all the rest of the crew are there, and there's a few others thrown in there for good measure. Nimoy's back. I don't know if you should be happy about that or not, but we'll have to wait and see. So, where to begin? So the basic plot is a crazy guy blows up some sort of old library place on planet Earth, and it's great to see planet Earth because it looks all not realistic, but it's it's really good to see planet Earth in Star Trek and see how civilizations moved on and how things work. But anyway, this guy's blown up this archive or this library and he's stolen some information, but apparently it's some sort of secret weapon and it's all crazy, and then he kills all the lead officers, so Captain Kirk has to go and save the day, but he's not allowed to save the day because at the very start of the movie there's this crazy action sequence where they're running and there's a volcano and it's all very traumatic. And so he loses his ship, and so he's not actually in Starfleet, but then everyone dies, so he has to do his thing. He has to be Captain Kirk and go save the day. Now the opening sequence, like I said, was fantastic, and I really liked that it got off to such a high impact start because the original one did the same. You were thrown straight into the mix, and it was just, in your face from the very, very start, which is a lot of fun, and that's what you want. You just want to go into the cinema, have a lot of fun, you want to be in space, you want to be inside the Enterprise and just be soaking up the atmosphere. Do a quick rundown of all the characters that were in it and how I felt they did and how they did as actors. Chris Pine was back as Kirk. It's hard to say how really well he did because he didn't really develop much from the first movie, and I felt he was a bit restrained the whole time, as if he was trying not to tread on Shatner's toes. And that's quite interesting because what that does is it actually gives Shatner's acting a lot more credibility than it actually has when you see an actor like Chris Pine kind of playing down the role a little bit. And I think I would have liked to have seen a bit more actual action from Chris Pine. However, it's hard to complain when he's tobogganing. He's not tobogganing. He's flying between two ships and there's debris everywhere. And I mean, when there's sequences like that, it's hard to complain. And there's a really interesting dynamic between himself, Chris Pine, and Zachary Quinto as Spock. Kirk and Spock being friends, doing this, not that. And there's a lot more kind of feels in it, and they're Spock calls them friends, and then there's all sorts of nice feely bits, and he's like, oh, we're friends, and I love you, and that doesn't happen, and so it's nice that their relationship is coming on a little bit more. I really like that. It just made it feel a bit more real, which was good. Pegg was back, he was doing all the jokes, and to be honest, I liked him the best. His jokes were just the best, and he kind of kept the whole show running, and he was a nice constant factor all the way through, that whenever the movie was going maybe up a bit, down a bit, he would always be there with something to interject. Bones was a bit crappy. He was just his jokes were so forced and overdone, I felt, that it just made a fool of him a wee bit. Nimoy was in it again. I don't even know what he was doing there. It was a real shocker actually, because it's just I don't care. I wasn't that invested in the original Star Trek. Why is he even here? I don't even know who he is. It's not very funny. It's funnier in The Big Bang Theory because it's more real. But in this, it seems really odd. It kind of breaks down the fourth wall a wee bit because he's there, but he shouldn't be there, and everyone knows him because of his celebrity status. Now I feel that it doesn't. I didn't know why he was there. And of course we can't forget to talk about Benedict Cumberbatch. It's hard to say how I really feel about him because I haven't really seen him in that much. I've seen him in Sherlock. He was okay in that. Is that all I've seen him in? Yeah, I liked him. I just felt like his action was a bit soft maybe because, he's not the biggest guy. However, he had a lot of action sequences where he's got this big gun, he's doing loads of karate and kind of punching people. He's some sort of cyborg alien who's a lot more intellectually developed than the human race, and also more physical. Not a cyborg. He's just more advanced physically and mentally. he could just kick some real ass. I just felt he was a bit flat. I mean, his character obviously doesn't have much emotion, doesn't do much emotion, so maybe he was acting wise, he was a bit restrained by that again. I felt everyone was a bit restrained. Love interest wise, we had Spock's girlfriend was still there, being really emotional because Spock's not sure if he's a Vulcan or he's a human, so he doesn't really know how to love or whatever. And there's a new love interest. Well, not really actually, which I quite liked. There's like this pretty blonde girl, and you get to see like a bit of her space boobs and stuff, which was alright. And she's on the scene and she sneaks aboard, and it's all very interesting. She's there, a bit of eye candy. She was a bit dumb. She was alright. Space babe though, so I can't complain. Effects wise, it had all the signature bits and bobs, lots of kind of lens flare stuff, although it was toned down from the first movie, which was nice. The Klingons, they just looked a bit fake, which was a bit of a shame. They had used these also on the Enterprise. They use a lot of kind of ready-made props, which is a real weakness in the movie, I find, because I've worked in shops before in retail, and they have these scanners on the till, but they also have them on the bridge of the Enterprise, and they're not disguised in any way that makes me think, oh look what the prop man's done, that's so clever. But in actual fact, they're just really crappy scanners that are just really crap, and once I notice them I can unnotice them. I'll put a link to, there's a little article and it'll show you them. It's really weird. There's some other good bits. Other good bits included ship. It's nice to see the scale of the ship, and they run about in the inside, and it's all like, oh, that's how big it is. On the TV show, you do get a sense of that. You get to see the canteen and the bedrooms and stuff. But this, I just like seeing them running in the corridors and the big engine rooms and pipes and stuff. That's really great. There was like some weird stuff in it, like Beastie Boy music, when he's having like, he's in bed with a couple of girls, and it's like Beastie Boy music in it. It's quite interesting, because I do like the Beastie Boys. But would people still be listening to that in 200 years from now? Which is a really interesting idea about what music would survive. Would Beastie Boys be one of them? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd hope so. Hip Hop Kirk. I like the sound of that. So a few bad points maybe in the effects. There was like this wee furry animal thing, and that was rubbish. Really rubbish. And that's the only bad effect I can really think of. The sound was good. It didn't blow me away, but there were some parts in the movie where the sound really helped get the feel of it, and you could really see what was happening, and it really emphasised either the speed or the velocity is the same as speed, and the impact, and the sound really got you. There were some great action sequences in there, especially with Spock and Cumberbatch towards the end, which really brought the whole movie alive and gave you it was a lot, as the movie went on, the action got a lot better, if you ask me, which was a bit of a shame, because it kind of, the way the movie ran, it was 2 hours and a bit, and the way the movie ran, you'd expect it to be like kind of like quite bumpy like this, but for me it kind of just went like this, which is good but bad in the same way, because people are going to lose interest if they're not taken from the very start. And like I said, there was space babes and there was humour in the form of Scotty to keep them going. So maybe it wasn't all bad, but there's some really great Zachary Quinto, Benedict Cumberbatch action sequences on Earth, which, like I said before, was great to see how it developed and how it moved on. Okay, and to kind of wrap up, I'm going to go through a good point, and then I'm going to balance it with a bad point. I've got 2 or 3 of these to go through. So, good point, Simon Pegg. Bad point, Bones. Good point, scale of ship, intricate details. Bad point, no one really cared when the other crew members died or had an accident. No one really cared about that, so bad, very bad. It was more of the same, and that's really good. It's what we all really enjoyed from the first one, which took me by surprise. I wasn't sure if I'd like Star Trek, but I did. I really liked the first one, that was great. But on the other hand, I felt like it was a bit lacklustre in places. Like they weren't really giving it their full potential, whether they were restricted by their character, by the director, by the scriptwriter, I'm not sure. But everyone just didn't seem that fussed I don't know. It kept me on my toes the whole time. It was, you never knew what was going to happen. It was this back and forth, kind of changing places, kind of no one knew whose side, what was going to happen. And it was just, they kept trying to outdo one another with their schemes and plans, and that was really good fun. But at the same time, I didn't really feel like there was many risks involved. Yes, like there was big action and big sequences, but the risk really, when they didn't care about the crew that much that died, there was no like, oh my god, 50,000 people have died on the ship. It was just like, the main characters, look, the main characters. I don't know, I felt like they could have got the feeling of the ship as a community down just a little bit tight. One of my favourite aspects was throughout the movie, especially at the start, with Kirk losing his ship and being reprimanded for being a naughty boy and jeopardising the missions, we got to see how the system worked. And I think that's really important. It's a bit kind of behind the scenes, and there's loads of little not Easter eggs, but hints of what happens throughout the movie in these opening scenes, in the offices. You get a bit of a clue what's going on there. But I really liked that you got to see the hierarchy of how the system worked. And for me, that just made it a little bit more real. And, you know, that's what I liked about the Star Trek. I've gone on about the scale of the ship, the detail of the ship, how they interact with one another. And that was really special for me. What was bad I can balance that all against? I don't know, man. Those props, those scanners, man, they ruined the movie for me. Oh, okay, so to round up, I'm going to give Star Trek Into Darkness a 6 out of 10. So that's 6 Chris Pines out of a possible 10 Chris Pines, only because the little things let down for me. But I think it could be a good 7 or 8 in other people's minds if they weren't as fussed as I was about this tiny little things that really bugged me. Maybe it was a 7. Maybe it was a 6. Did it boldly go where no man had gone? Nah, it didn't. It didn't do that. So a 6. Well, guys, that was kind of my first review. I hope it was kind of okay. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.